If you've ever tried to glue hard plastics, you know not just any glue will do, but I found a glue that works to attach the transducer on this Garmin 7SB fish finder to my Bonafide kayak. The glue made it so I didn't have to drill holes or put screws in the bottom of the dry pod. Stick around and I'll show you the glue that worked and how my Garmin install turned out. The main challenge with this install is the side imaging transducer that comes with the Garmin 7SV. Side imaging transducers need a clearer line of sight to either side of the kayak. Bonafide made a well in the kayak for down imaging transducers, but the well blocks the path for the side imaging transducers. So you have to put a spacer on the bottom of the dry pod so the transducer can get its clear path to either side of the kayak. To get that clear path, the transducer needs to drop down 4 inches from the bottom of the dry pod. So the transducer bracket from Garmin drops down 2 inches, and then I just needed a 2-inch plastic spacer to drop it down the 4 inches that it needed to clear. I made my spacer out of plastic cutting board, 3/4 inch and 1/2 inch. I set the 3/4 inch pieces vertically, if you will, and then the 1/2 inch piece across the horizontally so it would hold together better. So I needed a glue that would bond the hard plastic of this cutting board material together to make this block, and I also needed to bond the block to the bottom of the Bonafide's dry pod. Most glues won't work with hard plastics. The super glues, epoxies, silicones, none of them seem to bond the hard plastics, and they just come apart. That really just never even, I don't know if you can see that, but it's still even liquid where it won't penetrate the surface of the hard plastic, and that's been on there for like 10 minutes or so and it's still wet. But there's a relatively new glue that does. It's the DAP Rapid Fuse Plastic Primer Kit, and it's about $7 for 3 grams of this glue, which, you know, it's a tiny bit, but you really don't need a whole lot. So the primer works just like a highlighter. It looks like a highlighter and it works just like a highlighter. You do that on both pieces of plastic that you want to bond together. Let that dry just for a minute, and then you just follow up with the glue, and it just goes on like super glue, just little dots of it on one side. You hold that together for about 30 seconds. It'll hold there for a bit, and then you leave it alone for 30 minutes. You don't have to clamp it. You don't have to do anything special. It just works like that. It's simple, and it holds like iron. And the block that I put on the bottom of the dry pod here, you can see it here. You know, I've bumped this transducer a bunch of times, pretty hard actually, on different stuff as I was kind of banging around here in the garage, and you know, it hasn't budged. It's really stuck on there on the bottom of the dry pod there. So once I had the spacer glued to the bottom of the dry pod, then I just screwed the transducer bracket to the block, so the screws are just in this piece of plastic and there's no holes then in the bottom of my dry pod. To finish the install, I drilled a couple holes and installed some Yak Attack through-hole grommets in the dry pod so I could run the power leads out to the head unit from the battery that's inside of the dry pod. And then the transducer cables are made for bass boats and stuff, so they're super long, and they don't really make one that's short for a kayak. One of the neatest places to store it's inside the dry pod box. So I just ran the cable into the dry pod box, coiled it all up in here, and zip tied it, and then ran it back out and down to the transducer. So it's just a neat place to store all that cable. You know, I've heard that people cut them, but I wasn't brave enough to cut and splice mine. I know it voids your warranty if you do that, so I wasn't going to do that. And then I just spliced the power cables into my battery cables and my wiring harness, and used some braided sleeving and some heat shrink to clean that up a little bit. That's the wiring and cabling part of it. You know, these holes and the grommets in that are up high enough where I don't think they'll take on a whole bunch of water, but if they get some water splashed on them, they'll hold the water, I think, out of the dry pod box to keep it dry in there. The battery is inside the dry pod, so everything is stored really inside the dry pod here, and then I can just pull the whole dry pod out, and that way, you know, if I am out and I'm staying in a hotel and the kayak's out overnight, or if I want to run in and get a taco, I can just pull the whole thing out of here and and either stick it inside the truck or inside the hotel or whatever. And then, you know, just pop it, just set it back in there, and away you go. So super simple. The only thing left was to plug everything in and see if it actually fired up. And you can see here it turned on and everything is good to go. So that's my install. It's pretty simple really, but it turned out just like I wanted it to. You know, it functionally seems to be exactly what I need, and it looks nice and clean. And I'm anxious to get it out of the water and see if I can find some of those fish that are hiding where I never seem to be able to find them. So thank you for watching. I appreciate it. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. If you like what I'm doing, I'll be making a few more videos like this. So if you like to follow along, go ahead and subscribe. And if not, take care.